Hi friends, Gabe Green here with another African Violet video for you. It is Thursday, week 2, video 2, update time. So the theme of this video is going to be, is it recording, babe? Okay. The theme of this video is your seedlings are your babies. You need to treat them like they're your babies. What do you do with babies? You check on them every day. Sometimes moms, dads out there, you're sometimes, many times a day. 3 o'clock in the morning, they need you. They need you to be there constantly, and that's the theme of this video for our seedlings. You need to be there constantly, checking on them, looking at them, making sure they're all right. And so the first thing to make sure when you're babying your seedlings, light. If you remember last video, I had the strip lights, and I suspected from the get-go that those weren't going to be enough light, not enough power. UV light, your plants need it, obviously. It's their food and water, of course. We'll get into that. And so the very next day after that video, last Friday, I decided to pull the trigger and get a different light. I kind of suspected my seedlings weren't doing well. It wasn't obvious, but since I already thought the lights weren't enough, and I was being paranoid. Your seedlings, if they're not getting enough light, they'll get tall, they'll get thin, they'll not be able to support the leaves. So I got a new lighting setup. And it's really not, it's a little bit different than my strip lights. It's actually still LED strip lights, but here's the old setup. Here's my new one. You can see it's basically LED strip lights, but it's more watts, more power, and it's kind of, because of this little hood, it's directing it towards the plants better. And I could see within like 3 days or so that they were happier, that they were growing a little more. And so my advice, don't go cheap on the lights. It was only like 20 more bucks. I found the cheapest lights I could in the beginning with the strip lights. It was like 20 more bucks to get that. And it's so much more effective. It's doing the job better. So you don't need to get the most expensive setup, but get something that's enough watts, enough power. Okay, now the second thing is water. If you remember, I was using this. Well, I suspected in the last video that I was going to have to be watering them every day or every other day. And I was right. I was having to start watering them every day. This is very small. It was very taxing. It was difficult. It's taking a lot of time. So I decided, this is actually like it's like my third time making this video. So I already put away my watering setup, thinking I had it all right, but I had to remake the video. So I'm using this metal straw. Sorry, give me a second. I'm using this metal straw. I put some purple tape on it to make sure nobody drinks out of it, obviously, because fertilizer is going through it. And I use this mason jar. I fill it up with water and I put some fertilizer in it. Here's my fertilizer. It's only $9. Get some fertilizer, guys, if you're gonna do seed to plants. It'll do so much for your seedlings. This will go a really long way for me. I put, like, for this much water, this full mason jar, I put like 1/4 of a teaspoon in there. Not much. It's very potent fertilizer. And then, of course, I just drop the straw in, close it, drop, close it, drop, close it, drop. And there's probably a more efficient way you know, but it works for me right now. You know, find out what works for you. If you don't have to spend money, if you don't have to buy something else, if you got something in the house, just use it. That's my recommendation. Okay, now the third thing, space. So make sure your babies are getting enough space. After the video last week, the very next day, I kind of looked at all my seedlings. If you remember, I had like 40 or so sprouts, a lot of sprouts. But there were some that were thriving and there were some that were weak. And so all the weak ones, I just pulled them out, just killed them. And I'm doing two things with that. One, I'm giving more real estate for my other plants. They're having more space. They're able to grow more. They're not competing. And two, it's less work for me to have to water so many of them. So, you know, I wasn't ever planning to have like 10 African violets come out of this. Like maybe 3 or 4 I would like to have, 3 or 4 viable ones. So I don't mind just pulling out a bunch of them. If you're gonna plant a lot of seeds, but you're not expecting to yield the entire amount, then of course, you know, choose which ones that are thriving and which ones are weak. And the ones that are thriving, give them more space if it's crowded. So let's check them out. Here they are. You can see now I have about 15 of them. And you can also see there's not just 2 leaves anymore, is there? If you remember, I talked about the true leaves, how I was waiting for them. Well, they have come. They are here. These are the beginning of our African violets. See them there? Those are our true leaves. And I actually made another video, and I already did this, but you can see here. You see that little stem down there? I cut that one. It was another seedling, and actually it was just as tall as this one, just as happy, and they were doing well. However, it's not a very big pot, is it? And it's not a lot of soil. It's not a lot of real estate. Eventually, these 2 seedlings were going to compete with each other and basically prevent each other from growing to their full potential. So if you have a couple seedlings and they're very close and they're growing, they're doing well, they are going to take away from each other if they're too close. So real estate, space, it's important. All these ones, eventually we're gonna have to transplant them into little pots as well. But we don't really want to do that until, from what I've heard, until they get their second set of true leaves. So we're just gonna wait. And of course we have these ones that are doing really well. If all else fails, say that these end up, none of them, say I decide not to continue with any of them. Well, that's okay, I have these. But at least it's kind of a fail-safe if anything happens to these, and I could potentially transplant them later as they've grown bigger. But yeah, they're doing really well. I'm really happy. They're doing good. They should. And yeah. Some are happier than others, but that's okay. These true leaves came about, I don't know. It was not that long ago. Not that long ago that they came about. And they've grown so much. It's been like 3 or 4 days, and these true leaves have grown a lot. And you can actually see in between the 2 true leaves, there's something else coming out. It's another pair of leaves. So once the true leaves come, they're gonna they are gonna boom. They're gonna grow a lot, so be prepared. Be prepared for that. So yeah, I'm very happy. Next video, I'm gonna show you guys a system that I'm gonna try out this weekend and over the next week or two. And it's a self-watering system, which, for two reasons, I'm looking into this. One, it's obviously a lot of work to water them every day manually. But two, we are going to be gone soon for a few days, about 6 or 7 days, and I'm not going to be here to water them every day. So they're gonna need some sort of system. I've been researching it. I think this is the way to go. So I'm going to try it out. Like I said, in the next video, I'll let you know how that's working, if it's actually working, or if I need to do something else. I was gonna try some watering spikes. It's like you hook a little tube up to some water that's below the plant, and it essentially uses a vacuum, osmosis basically. The soil's dry, it doesn't have enough water. You're connecting it to what would be a mason jar or something that's full of water, and it just draws it out over time. As the soil gets drier, draws it out. But the problem is that the spikes are typically like big. I mean, that's about as big as my pot, you know, it's about as big as the pots that I'm using. I just don't have enough soil for that. So I'm trying a different way and see if it works. I'll let you guys know. Thanks for tuning in. And enjoy your Thursday night. And I'll see you next week on Gabe's Violets. Gabe's Violets. That was awkward.